Welcome back to our 7th episode of the Shining Athletes podcast. My name is Tyler Baum.
I'm Erin Molay.
And today we got another special guest, our first hockey player, and has joined our team for this fall. And her story is very, very special. The way she talks about being a leader and her accomplishments through high school and through college. Not many student athletes get to hear from someone that has a perspective like Meghan. Meghan is unbelievable in what she's done and what she's accomplished, and I'm really excited for the listeners to hear her story because she has a very special story, and I wanna get right into it.
Yes, we kind of took a pivot in our podcast episode, and we focused a lot on leadership and becoming a captain and what it means to be a leader, whether it's having the official accolade or being just a personable leader. She does an amazing job explaining that, walking us through that. And honestly, without further ado, I think we should jump right into her amazing episode.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Shining Athletes podcast. We have another very special guest, another one of our team members, and our first ever hockey player joining the podcast. And I'm really excited to tell her story, and I'm really excited to get the word out there about college hockey and what it's about. And I'm Tyler Baum. I'm here with my co-host,
Erin Molay.
And our special guest, Meghan. Meghan, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
A little bit about Meghan. Meghan is a college hockey player, as I said before, but she isn't just a great college hockey player. She's the best description of what a student athlete is, and I'm excited to tell her story. And Erin, let's get right into this episode.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited to welcome Meghan, not only a student athlete, but also one of the amazing Shining Athlete interns. Meghan was a standout hockey player at Stevenson University, and Meghan is going to share an amazing story about discipline, leadership, and steady growth, and her ability to balance success on the ice while also having excellence in the classroom. Thank you so much, Meghan, for being here. We're just going to dive right in. So we are so curious, especially because women in sports is very underrepresented. Not only how did you get into athletics, but how specifically did you get drawn into hockey?
Yeah, so my dad actually grew up playing hockey along with my grandfather and my brother. I have a younger brother. We're 18 months apart, and he currently also plays hockey at Coastal Carolina University.
Nice.
And he's on the club team there. So a little bit of a different level, but kind of experiencing the same things. But anyway, yeah, my brother started playing hockey when he was younger. He was coached by my dad a little bit along with some other people. And when I was really young, I was a soccer player, but I just really like being competitive. I still do. And basically anything just around sports I was into. So after I was spending so much time at the rink with my brother and my dad, basically just like a little rink rat running around with all the other siblings, I was really interested, and I asked my dad if I could possibly try hockey, and he turned me down at first. And then he told me if I wanted to try skating, I could get into figure skating, which if you know me now, it's the complete opposite thing of something I would ever do. But I was determined to become a great skater because if I figured I could get the skating down, then possibly my dad would say okay, she could do this, I guess, if he would let me. So I was in figure skating for not that long at all. In fact, I remember the first session I was out there, I was in the learn to skate kind of group, and they asked if they could move me up, and one of the instructors was like, this was her first day. So after that, I was like, I'm not going to be here long, I don't think. And I was
Yeah.
like 8 years old. So then one day around Christmas time when I was, I believe 8, my dad came home from my brother's game and was like, his coach asked if you would want to play, if you're interested. And I was like, would you let me? Like, of course I want to. And then from then on, my dad kind of taught me how to skate in hockey skates. And I was hooked and I loved the sport. I loved everything about it, but I was really determined to get better, partly because I'm competitive and also because I was kind of internally competing with my brother, which he probably didn't realize or care. But
Mhm.
in my mind, that's what was happening.
Shout out your brother. I'm always gonna shout out club sports because I was a part of it, and I know what the difference is and how it becomes a part of your life. I mean, it's still being a student athlete, and it's still as high of competition as being a college athlete. So shout out your brother.
I am also the older sibling. I have a younger sister, so I can very much relate with that like internal competitiveness. My sister and I both played softball, and she was an amazing athlete. Like sports were her whole life. Sports were pretty important to me, but I also was kind of nerdy in that I liked the student side a little bit more, so I wasn't as into it, I guess. But I do get the whole thing of you're secretly competing. They might not know, but they're probably competing against you. So I can totally relate. Um,
Right.
Jumping ahead a little bit to high school, can you tell us what your experience was at East Catholic High School?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, and the high school I went to was actually 30 minutes away from my like house, I guess. But in middle school, I just randomly decided I wanted to go to Catholic school, which is like such a weird thing for a kid to
Yeah.
want to go to Catholic school because a lot of the students or my peers that I went to school with in high school, their parents went there or they just wanted a better education for them or wanted a better system, what have you. But I
Mhm.
fully went to my parents and was like, I want to go to East Catholic. And my mom grew up in Catholic school and she was like, wait, why? And I think that was pretty much just because I wanted a better environment than what I saw around me at the time. Like when I
Mhm.
was in middle school, I just felt like there were a lot of kids around me that were going down paths I didn't really necessarily want to follow. And I wanted to surround myself with people who had like more stronger goals and just better values. And
Mhm.
of course, another reason was because my uh, high school team in my town didn't have a girls' team at the time. The year
Mm.
after I like transferred schools, they got one, but it didn't really matter because I was gonna go either way.
Yeah.
Um, and that team was a co-op team with a few other surrounding towns, so it just so happened that one of my best friends that I was growing up playing hockey with in middle school was also a part of the co-op. She was on my travel team, and I got to play with her for 4 years, which was, like, one of the best experiences I had because I was growing up with my best friend on my team, and we had a lot of challenges just being in high school, and we would just come to practice every day and talk about it even though we went to different schools, and I think it really helped me get through, like, some of the hard parts of high school, just being, like,
Totally.
a kid. And then we also were captains our junior and senior year, so learning how to, like, lead a team, was great to be able to experience that, like, with her, someone so close to me by my side. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm really thankful for that. She goes to Assumption University, in Massachusetts, and she plays D1 hockey there too.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Megan, jumping back, can you describe for the audience what like a co-op team is or how it functioned or looked like, at least in your school, for the audience members that might not have experienced that or don't know what that is?
Yeah, so a co-op is basically the best way I can explain it is that my high school was really small. I think my graduating class was like 112 kids. So take that small number and then narrow it down even more to girls and then narrow it down even more to girls that play hockey. So there's not that many girls. And
Mhm.
same with the other high schools in the area. So basically, what a co-op allows you to do is have multiple different schools play for essentially the same team. And there were other schools that were just like the one school in the town because they had enough kids. I don't
Mhm.
exactly know what the number is, but it just so happened that my friend lived in a town which is 40 minutes away from me, like 10 minutes away from my school. So like I wouldn't have been playing with her in high school if I stuck around where I was. But
Mhm.
it gives you the opportunity to play with girls in the surrounding towns on the same team, just so like everyone has a place to play.
For a lot of student athletes, they're playing with classmates, and it's, it goes from being in the hallways every single minute of every single day to practice to having to deal with being around those people 24/7. For you, like playing on a co-op team, was it kind of like a breath of fresh air when you went to hockey to like separate the athletic side of things versus the student aspect of things?
Definitely, because a lot of my favorite parts of, like, playing on that team for 4 years was being able to hear, like, everyone's different stories about their day or, like, just school in general, and so I had my friends that went to school with me. We would bring, like, what happened in school that day. My other friends would be talking about what happened with them, and, like, then again, not having to see the same people, like, all the time, and, like, it was so nice to see, like, my friends that I don't see at school every day still because we still played on the same team.
That's awesome. Um, Thank you so much for sharing. I know you mentioned that you were team captain. Can you please share with us what being captain taught you? What was really important about being team captain, or a shift from being a teammate to now the leader of your team?
Yeah. So in high school, when I was the captain of our high school team for 2 years, junior and senior year, that actually followed suit in college. I've been the captain my junior year last year and my senior year this year. And I think that being a leader in high school, I remember looking back my freshman year of college and being like, oh, that was nothing. But when I'm put in that leadership position again, I realized how much it taught me.
Mhm.
Just being able to work with other people, like teamwork in general, it's so complicated to work cohesively with other people, and I feel like a lot of the time in school and even when you're growing up playing youth sports, you're taught a lot about teamwork and how important it is, but it's different when you're actually having to live it out in real time.
Yeah.
And to me, there's no better feeling than when you're leading a team and you're working together cohesively and everything comes out successfully. It's so rewarding, but also you have to remember in times that sometimes you're gonna work really hard as a team and you're gonna play great and you're still not gonna win, and it's important to not let that frustrate you, and as a captain, it was really hard, especially last year, being the leader of my college team when I felt like all the pieces were in the right place and they still like, it felt like I still couldn't complete a puzzle, and we still like, some games we weren't winning, but we played so good, and it kinda made me doubt myself a little bit because I was like, "What am I doing wrong?" But it's not necessarily me, and it's not necessarily anyone doing anything wrong. So what
Mhm.
I would try and do is continue to, like, lead by example and trying to get the people that kind of tried to prioritize themselves over the team to understand why we work as a team and how to care about the team rather than just themselves. Because playing a sport, especially in college, everyone's worried about their stats, everyone can see your stats, everyone knows you went to high school with, you went to play college, and they wanna know how you're doing now, so it's really easy to get caught up in just the numbers game.
Mhm.
But to me, like, scoring 5 goals in a game and losing still is not rewarding at all. I could play my best, not have any points, and if we win, like, that's gonna be 10 times more rewarding than the other way around. And also, as a captain, I kinda learned that I want to always succeed, but as a team, but if we always did succeed, there would be, like, no room for us to progress or improve or learn, um, and I feel like that's really important because usually there's a stereotype that the captain, like, knows exactly what they're doing all the time and is gonna play great all the time, and it's just not true. And I've kind of expected that of myself the first couple of months leading my team. And then I snap back in reality, like it's okay to make mistakes, because if I don't make mistakes, then everyone else will feel uncomfortable making them too. So kind of like even to so much as like getting called out in practice for not doing the right thing, like it's important for me to be able to take that well, so other people aren't getting upset or like take it personally, because it's just like a stepping stone to learning how to do the right thing.
Totally. And I love how you frame that, because I know you do have like some coaches or some captains that are only caring about winning, but maybe the technique falls short and you got lucky, or there was more attitude, or only certain players got certain minutes. And I know you mentioned about like people trying to get the stats like to show, but that doesn't necessarily mean like the chemistry's there, the dynamic of the game was good. And jumping a little bit deeper into that, how did those lessons from being a captain and those experiences kind of, even with the challenges, motivate you or encourage you perhaps to transition from a high school athlete to playing in college?
So, obviously I grew up playing hockey and it was kind of just my life. I also played lacrosse and field hockey, which I loved being a tri-sport athlete. I loved being able to transition. I loved being on the ice. And then the next season I loved running. And it's just a way that kept me in shape all year. And kind of now I'm realizing that like that's what I want to do, is just in the perfect world, I would work out all the time and work out with people all the time. That could
Yeah.
be my dream job. But anyway, my passion is kind of in just like strength and conditioning and exercise. But I've always been like very dedicated to everything I do, whether it's school and or whether it's hockey. So I kind of knew that I don't do anything halfway ever, and like I have high expectations for myself. So when I was going through the recruitment process and everything, I thought like, even though it was hard, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to play in college. Like this is what I've wanted to do forever. Like I'm not going to play my whole life in high school and then not play in college. It was a matter of where I wanted to play in terms of like club or D3 or another division. Um, I did consider club for a little bit, just because I was like, what if I go to a big school and I get to experience like college, like social life, and then I still get to play my sport. But then I was like, I think I don't want to go to a big school. I've never gone to a big school, so I was kind of being overzealous. Like that's not what I want anyway. Um, so then I kind of decided like, yeah, I'm definitely going to commit to playing college hockey, which kind of got me into the recruitment process, which at the end of the day, coming like to the end of my 4 years pretty soon, I can't imagine like what life would be if I didn't choose to play. And I know a lot of people that decided after high school that they didn't want to play anymore and they like all miss it. Even my brother, he went to school and he was like, I'm done with hockey. I want to have fun in college. And then after a year off, he was like, I have to go back. I miss it so much.
I will admit, I don't know a ton about hockey in the like collegiate level, and I'm not sure how much our audience would know, but I just have a question. Would you say there are a lot of schools that offer hockey, whether it's a club, D1, 2, 3, whatever, or was that like another challenge that you had to kind of work through of not having as many options as, let's say, a football school or baseball that tends to be more common?
So that's a great point. I feel like now with women's hockey growing at such a rapid pace as it is, there's
Mhm.
so many schools and definitely more than I feel like there's ever been. But still, it's not nearly as many programs offered as like women's lacrosse or women's soccer or even women's field hockey. Those are really popular sports for women, and hockey is a super popular sport, but not specifically for women. So
Mhm.
when I was, and there's probably a couple more schools now or a couple more programs now than when I was first getting recruited, but I do
Mhm.
remember, like, looking at the list of all the schools across all levels, and it's still, like, to me, being so small,
Mhm.
and I was like, "I wish I played a field sport that was easier," because not only are there, like, only so many teams, but there's only so many spots, and it especially during COVID when I was getting recruited, there was an extra year or 2 of eligibility for some athletes, so, um, people would still be able to stay, which means there's less roster spots, so all of this, like, open spots were getting cut for incoming freshmen, and it
Mhm.
kinda just felt like I was like, "Okay, where do I go? Where is there even a spot for me?" So that was really tricky. And the recruiting process in whole was really rough, like, it's for any sport, I think, but, overall for me, like, I found it to be, like, political, tricky, kind of unforgiving, like, at some points, um, and like I said, being recruited during COVID made it harder because coaches weren't traveling as much, and when they could travel, that didn't mean they necessarily wanted to, like, depending on where they were, like, they didn't wanna go all the way to New England, they didn't wanna go all the way across the country, which I get because it was a scary time for
Mhm.
everyone in terms of, like, falling ill, but the whole process was stressful, and I feel like I wasn't really ready for how stressful it was gonna be because I kept trying to avoid, like, this huge college thing that it's kinda seemed like college was like this, and I was kinda trying to push it away, but avoidance doesn't work, and time eventually passes, and the big scary thing that you're ignoring will still show up, um, but one of the problems for me as I was, like, being recruited was that I couldn't really picture myself at any of the schools I was touring if I wasn't playing hockey, which I think is so important because a lot of people would be like, "Oh, this is so great. I'm going to this small D3 school and playing hockey." But God forbid if anything ever happened, I wanted to be able to say, even if I did transfer for the remainder of that year, I would still be able to be happy at the school I was going to if
For
anything were to
sure.
happen. Um,
Mhm.
so those were some kinda, like, obstacles I ran into, but, the process came with some disappointment, but I think that everything happens for a reason, and one of the biggest, lessons I've learned that I try and tell, younger girls getting recruited is that your worth as a person and a player isn't tied to a division, a team, or a school name. And that's really important because it's really easy to get discouraged when you think that you're gonna play at a D1 school and you end up going D3. But either way, like playing at an NCAA school is such an accomplishment, such a privilege. So I just try and relay that to people, kind of help them get through the recruitment process because I feel like that's definitely something I wish that someone was like patting me on the shoulder telling me like 4 years ago.
And I think that's something, obviously, as we talk more about, and we start talking to athletes as shining athletes, that process is really important. And Megan, what you just talked about is the perfect example of, you have to find what's your path. You can't just assume, okay, I'm a D1 athlete, I'm set here, because as you said, Megan, like, if it doesn't work out, what's the backup plan? And if you don't have a backup plan, that's hard to really know what your path is. And so there's a great medium between having the knowledge of, okay, I can make steps to get to where I want to be, versus just taking the biggest risk of your life and maybe it not panning out the way you want it to. And so I think with what you just said, it's really important for the listeners to really understand that looking into this process, there are a bunch of steps to get to maybe that end goal, but it is a process and it is your own path to get to where you want to be.
Yes. Okay. Once you got to college and you found the place that like fits you and are happy with the program, what was it like taking the captain of your high school team mentality and now transitioning it to coming in as the youngest, newest, or one of the newest members of a collegiate team?
So it's funny that you asked that because I have this vivid memory of the end of my senior year. We were in playoffs for lacrosse in the spring, and it was like a week or two before I graduated high school, and we had lost in the semifinals or quarterfinals. And I remember my parents were at the game, and I walked over to them and I was crying. They're like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I have to start all over again, and I'm so upset." And I like have been playing all these three sports, and I was like a leader on all three of my teams, and I had just like built a good reputation, and I was like, I have to start from scratch now with all these new people. Like, I have to say bye to my friends. And once my parents were like, stop crying, like, we're in public, we kind of talked about it a little bit later. And stepping into like college as a first year, and there was a lot of upperclassmen on my team my freshman year too. It was super intimidating. And I chose Stevenson for a multitude of reasons, but one of them was that like I liked that it was further from home, and that's not because I didn't want to see my parents or anything. It was just because I wanted the full college experience, and I felt like a huge part of that is being independent, and I've been independent my like whole life, but I was like, I don't want to be the kid that struggles and like gets to go home or has the opportunity to go home every weekend, because I
Yeah.
know that some people do have that. I was like, I just want to learn how to tough it out, because if I could tough college out, then I could do whatever.
Mhm.
So intimidating for sure. And my freshman year was really tough. My coach was tough on me, and initially I liked her, the coach that initially recruited me. I
Mhm.
liked her because she made it very clear that she was going to push me, but I think I underestimated how much she really would be pushing me.
Mhm.
And she was incredibly tough on me, and I think that's because she knew there was potential, and she knew that I was the kind of player that she could push and push and push, and I was going to get better. And I wasn't going to snap, and I wasn't going to take it personally, which is true.
Mhm.
And in a way that made me a lot stronger. And I'm grateful for how she pushed me, just not as a player in terms of skill, but as a person. But adjusting to college life and like starting kind of at the bottom again,
Mhm.
um, it was I was just like, wow, I feel like I need to relearn everything that I know. Um, and I kind of knew my first year that I would be in a leadership position again, because I was just like, my coach recognized leadership qualities in me from like my freshman year being 18. So it was kind of just like being able to leverage that and learn from the people that were leading me, maybe like stuff that I liked that they did, stuff that they didn't that I didn't like. Um, and so it's funny when I say like I had to like start from scratch, because that is what it felt like, even though it sounds a little bit dramatic.
No, I think that's great. And I do feel like there are always a select few number of players that can rise to the occasion when their coach is pushing them in ways beyond the sport. And clearly it worked because, as you lightly mentioned already, you did grow into a leadership position in your later years of college. So I guess what we're curious to know more about is, what lessons did you take either from your coach, the upperclassmen, your prior experience to help you lead a collegiate team and to help you feel that success in college before you were fully going into adulthood and having to kind of navigate other things completely on your own?
I feel like a lot of the lessons I've learned and what I try and help my teammates to do or recognizes in themselves is that like college sports are definitely not for the weak, and at any level they're hard, it's demanding, and it's mentally draining.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest things that I struggled with initially when I came to college was kind of forgetting like why I wanted to play when things got hard, and I kind of lost sight of why I loved hockey so much in my first year, but in all, I know that, like, people have always told me that I'm a natural born leader, so I kinda tried to use that as leverage when I was younger to try and uplift the people around me, because there was a time where, like, we were losing, our coach was tough on us, she was at a bad point in her life, and, like, everyone was miserable,
Mhm.
um, but I understood that people were looking up to me, even like my roommates or the kids like in my class, because if I was playing more than them, they were looking up to me and I was taking pride in that. And I learned a lot that I do think I have a good work ethic and I'm gonna work hard until I get like something right. It doesn't matter if it's school or hockey or it's like a single skill. And I
Mhm.
kind of noticed throughout my years in college that people also noticed that. So I was kind of leading by example without even really like putting effort into lead by example.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's just because when I push myself to work hard, it actually rubs off on other people. And it's kind of a contagious thing. And so
Mhm.
I've had this mentality throughout college that if I just keep doing me and working as hard as I always have, people are gonna catch on and it's gonna become contagious. And a real life example of that is sometimes when we have a 2-hour practice lot, and sometimes when we end early, we still have the ice for the full 2 hours even if practice is over. So I always stay on the ice, and I always have just because, like, I'm like, "I get extra ice time, this is great, I could do what I want." And the first couple of times, I remember no one was staying out at all, and it was just me on the ice. And then throughout the couple past years that I've been here, it's like some of the same 4 people that are staying out with me and, like, working extra, and that's really rewarding for me to see as a captain
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, like, I'm not only doing this for me to get better, but it's also making other people better too.
Yeah,
Now,
that's amazing.
now to kind of go off of that, I know it's a little tricky when
Mm.
you're a captain at the high school level versus the college level because at the high school level you're kind of playing with your friends that you've grown up with and played with for your whole life, and when you get to college you're kind of playing with brand new people and new friends. And was there do you feel like there's a difference with the intensity of critis- criticizing or giving critiques to your teammates when you're a captain in high school versus being that leader in college and not knowing your teammates as well?
For sure, in high school, um, a lot of the girls, like you said, like, I was close to, I grew up playing with, or even on, like, a club team, like, they were my friends. And I had known them or I had gone to school with them or whatnot. So it was really easy for me to be like, hey, next time you do this, just make sure you do this. Like whether it's like in a rep of a drill or say someone was like wearing like jeans when we're supposed to be wearing black pants to a game, I could just be like, next time make sure you're wearing black pants. And they'd be like, all right, thanks so much. I realized in college that people also take things a lot more personally than I feel like in high school. And I'm not sure why that is because I honestly thought it would be the other way around.
Mhm.
So, like, being a leader and giving criticism, some people's feelings get hurt a lot easier, but also at the same time, I feel like I have to be a little more stringent on the rules because
Mhm.
they're not just my rules, they're our coach's rules. And the last 3 years, I've had a lot of rules implemented, like, by our coaches just in terms of, like, she she was, like, very militaristic, and she liked everything a specific way every single day. So, like,
Mhm.
it was like, okay, if someone's not following a rule, that's actually on me in her eyes because I should be reinforcing the rules before it gets to her, if that makes sense. So, like,
Mhm.
I was kind of the middle person, um, and it's just, like, frustrating when I have to be the middle person and be like, you can't wear that, or you shouldn't say that, or you should talk to your teammates nicer, because it's kind of like, oh my gosh, the captain's always on my back, but I have
Yeah.
to be on people's back so my coach isn't on my back. Or that's how it kind of felt like the past couple of years. I have a new coach now as of this year, so I'm kind of like trying to navigate that. But yeah, it's definitely a lot harder, and I think it's also just because in high school, you have like 14-year-olds and then you have 18-year-olds. And then in college, you're between the ages of 18 and 22. And no like woman, I feel like, really wants to be led by someone that's like this much older than her. I just feel like the age, even though it's like the same age difference, you're older. So it's like you went to high school, you're in college now, you shouldn't have to be told what to do. And realistically, you still have to be told what to do, especially if you're not doing it.
And that's really interesting that you say that, because you would think more when you're in high school, it would be intimidating to be on your best friends that you're growing up with, and it would be harder to kind of give them the critiques because you don't want them to feel bad, but at the same time, you want to be a winner. And to
Right.
be a winner, it takes that extra step of having the courage to step up and do that. And then on top of that, once you get to the college level, it's more you're playing with people that are at your level when they played in high school, and it's difficult because they're trying to look up to you, but at the same time they might have a hot head of saying, I'm as good as you, I made it to this level, I don't need to
Exactly.
listen to you. And so there's a big medium, and that's a great example. So thank you, Megan, for the listeners, that you can still be a leader, but understand that the transition is way different, and you
Mm.
need to work and have achievements to prove to your teammates that you are capable of that position. And that is a very interesting point that I haven't really put into consideration, haven't really been able to have the listeners here. So I really appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, me too. And I know Tyler kind of mentioned it, and I think you did a little bit too, Megan, in your response to Tyler's question about being a leader and having to have that like extra like oomph to you to be able to manage your team, coach expectations, while also your own life and your own goals. I guess one of our like final questions about your leadership is just, what would you say are some really important characteristics or attributes that you either have seen success with having or that you think make a great leader for athletes that are wanting to kind of build themselves up or work on the next character trait to gain a little bit of an edge compared to their teammates?
Yeah. An important attribute of a leader to me is making leading by example a priority.
Mhm.
And that's just basically because when you're growing up and you see someone older than you doing something, you're like, I want to do that too.
Mhm.
In a collegiate setting, it probably looks like you see someone working on something, working hard, or something like that. And then it registers in your head that that's what you should be doing. And
Mhm.
so, like, okay, next time I'm going to do that for myself. Um, that's really important. And it just is a good way to kind of lead people non-verbally, and it's super effective. In addition to that, having just a good understanding of integrity and doing the right thing when it's not easy or it's not fun. An important part of being a leader is like I mentioned, when you have to get one of your friends on your teammates like in trouble, or you have to reprimand them for doing something, say they have a bad attitude on the bench, you have to be the one, even though you might go home and live with them as your roommate, you have to be the one to be like, hey, you know that you can't do this, I expect more from you. Not only does that speak loudly to them as a friend, but as a leader, being able to overcome the awkwardness that kind of exists. Um, that's just a good example of having integrity. And there's like been a couple times that I know like people have done something that is a rule, they broke it, even if it's like an NCAA rule, and I have to be the one to bring it to someone's of higher authority's attention. Like you
Mhm.
don't ever want to get someone in trouble, but that's just part of being like having integrity is just doing the thing that no one wants to do and when it's not popular. Um, and also being an effective leader, you have to have trust built amongst you and your teammates. And the way to do that is being able to emotionally connect with other people. It's kind of like the theory of self-disclosure. The more that you talk to people, have deeper conversations, the more you learn about them. And like when people know that you're actually emotionally invested in their lives, they trust you. And no one is going to want to be led by someone that they don't trust. And of course, with trust comes respect. And as an effective leader, your teammates need to trust you and respect you, or else like it's very easy for them to ignore everything that you say and like not want to like kind of abide by what you're saying. But that also falls on the leader too. Like sometimes you're gonna have to have like deep conversations or awkward conversations with teammates, but at the end of the day, you're acting in the best interest of your teammates. And that's kind of to me just what a good leader, effective leader does.
And I think to add off of that, it's really important because I think a lot of athletes get the wrong perspective of what really being a leader is, because there are some captains or chosen leaders that are just there and screaming at teammates and not really bringing up the team and not realizing that it's not just a in sport type of deal. Like it's getting to know your teammates, really understanding who you're playing with, and not just inside of the sport but outside of the sport, making time for your teammates so that you get to know them and make connections with them outside of just playing a sport with them, so that when you are and Megan's sake on the ice, you understand them more and you understand where they're coming from when there might be an argument of maybe a fast break happens and you mess up the play in the wrong way, and just understanding your teammates and how they adapt to different situations is really important on top of that.
Yeah. I think that was the most amazing, humble response ever. And I think that was such a great last question. You did an amazing job. Um, if you don't mind, though, we have a couple more lighthearted rapid fire questions to throw at you just to
Mhm.
kind of wrap up and close out this podcast. This is one of my favorite parts. So I'm ready if you are.
Alrighty.
Okay. Rapid fire question one. What is your favorite hockey memory of all time?
When I was a mite, which is the age group for people that are like, I think it's like 8 to 10 or something, so maybe 7 to 9. I was on the team, my first team, so with my brother and my dad as my coach, and we won a state championship. And at the time, I remember being like, I don't even know what this is, but I know that we won. And it was like my first hockey memory too, other than like when I first started skating.
Yeah.
And I just like loved being able to that was my first time ever winning something too. So
Yeah.
it was a really great experience. And I remember my dad as my coach and my brother was on my team too.
That's so
Even
awesome.
more special when you get to do it with
Yeah.
family.
Right.
That's so awesome. What is your go-to hype song before a big game?
Um I don't really I don't really have like a go-to hype song, but I do really like listening to like EDM or house music before games. I actually don't control the speaker at all in the locker room because it's like too stressful for me, but I am very vocal about when there's a song playing that I don't like and it gets changed immediately.
Amazing. Stand on business, queen. Do you have a pregame superstition or ritual?
I do I used to run a mile before every game, like around the rink. But sometimes I can't do that if there's like ice or it's like freezing. But I do run. We have an indoor turf field at our home rink, so I do make sure I run laps before every game. And I guess what's more of a superstition is that I always do more than like five, but it depends, like, how I feel, like, I don't it's hard to explain, but, like, when I'm in a certain like, if I feel a certain way, then I know that I'm doing 5. If I'm feeling more confident, or if I, like, am like, "I really need to play good," I'm doing, like, double digits.
Okay, that's impressive. What has been your favorite arena or place that you've played in?
Um, I don't know if it's because it's really a nice rink, I genuinely don't remember it at all, but when I was 12, I think, I we went to Jay Peak, Vermont, and I just remember it was like a resort, and there was a ski lodge and everything, and we stayed in cabins, um, and then we walked to the rink. It was, like, down, like, a snowy hill, and there was actually a water park, like, next to the rink, an indoor water park, like, next to the rink, so I remember that was the best rink I've ever played in, but I'm pretty sure it was just because of the water park. And I don't even know if the rink was nice.
That's funny. I love that. Who is your biggest role model, either in or out of hockey?
I think probably both my parents because they're, like, the 2 strongest people I know, and I know that I really wouldn't be where I am today without them in terms of, like, they push me in all the right ways. There's their unwavering support and commitment to me, like, even being in college because I live 8 to 10, depending on the day, hours away, from home, and my
Mhm.
parents, like, come to almost every single game, which means so much to me, and it makes me feel like the luckiest person in the world because I know a lot of my teammates, they don't get to see their parents as much or their parents can't make the trip. I'm not sure if all the times my parents should be making a trip because, like, they're supposed to be working, like, remotely, but,
Totally.
they do, and I know that, I make them really proud, and I think they're my greatest motivation, and just being able to see them when I'm playing, like, behind the glass means so much to me, and I know when I'm not playing, I'm really gonna miss that probably part the most.
Oh my god, that's so sweet. I love that. Um, what teammate, either present or past, has made you laugh the most?
Um, one of my, close friends, one of my best friends that I grew up playing with along with the girl that I played high school with, her name is Riley, she goes to Salve Regina, and she plays D3 hockey there too. Um, I grew up with her, and she's, like, probably the funniest person I've ever met in my life. And the great thing about her is like we grew up playing together and we always played together like on the ice at the same time too. And the chemistry I had with her was so unmatched. It's I've never come across another person that I've played that well with before. But even still, she's so funny. I see her like all the time posting stuff and like she's one of those friends that you have where you can talk like every single day or you don't talk for a month and the next time you talk it's like you just heard from her, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. Like
I
no time has passed.
I love that. What is your favorite post-game meal or snack?
My favorite uh restaurant is Cava, which is Mediterranean food.
Kava.
Yeah, it's I don't even know if it's my, like, post-game meal, but, like, I would literally have it every single I was actually just talking about this today, I would have it every single day. I think about having it every single day.
It's so good. It's so good. And last but not least, what is one word that would describe your playing style?
Um, when I was growing up, I was when I was playing soccer when I was really young, soccer, which is like a non-contact sport. Um, One of my coaches called me tenacious, and I had never heard of that word when I was a kid. And I got an award at the end of the year for most tenacious, which is a word he made up. And I remember being like, what does that mean? Like, why couldn't he just give me an award for a word I know? Because I was so little. But
Yeah.
tenacity for sure is a big part of my playing style. So I'd have to go with that.
I love that. It's such a great question and statement to end on. Thank you so much, Megan, for taking the time to meet with us. You, like Tyler said, are our first hockey athlete and women's hockey athlete, which is even more incredible. So thank you so much for sharing your story and talking so heavily about leadership. I think you're like the first guest that we've had that is so vocal about being a positive leader. And I know it's a huge part of the sport, whether you're the captain or not, having those traits are so important as a student, as an athlete. And we're so excited that you get to be a part of our team and we get to work with you in that way as well. So thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We loved having you.
Yeah. Megan, we really appreciate you coming on. She is a perfect reason to the listeners. She's a perfect reason of why we've made this team at Shining Athletes and why it's so easy to work on a team and to participate in a team. And Megan is a special part of our team because she brings all those aspects of a leader. And I'm so happy that we got to share your story, and I hope the listeners take something out of it because everything you said is pretty meaningful to any student athlete. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I had so much fun.
Yay.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that Megan could come onto the podcast and share her story. What she had to say is very inspirational and motivating, not just to me as a coach listening to what she had to say, but to the listeners out there who might be going through what she has gone through. And maybe it might be a different sport, but what she's gone through and what she talked about is really motivating to student athletes. And it shows that you can have passion, you can have a big heart for what you're doing, and have faith in yourself that you can make that next jump. And it's not just about being the athlete, it's about having the passion of being a student athlete and wanting more and working for it to get to where you want to be. And she is the perfect example of that.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. She not only earned the title of a leader, but she worked hard to be a leader. And I think it's a lesson any student can take with them, athlete can take with them. She says it all the time, to lead by example, to have humility. It just makes you a more well-rounded person, whether you're playing in college at a competitive level or just for fun. It's so important to have those attributes in your repertoire. And I don't know, Megan was just an amazing guest to have. I know I took something away, and I'm sure everyone here can take something away from her story and her experience. So that was so exciting, and I'm glad you stuck around and listened to it. And until next time, keep working, keep chasing your goals, and keep shining, athletes.
See you guys next time. Peace.